Liftoff will start in T-minus 10 seconds.
Hey everybody, this is Evan and John, and you're listening to The Boomer and X Show. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the next episode of the Boomer and X Show. Hello to our listeners, hello to night owls and early birds and everybody in between. We are now in the month of February, starting our second full month here on the Boomer and X Show. My name is John. This is my friend Evan.
Hey, everybody.
And here we are beginning February, which is National African American History Month, American Heart Month, National Teen Dating Violence Awareness, just so you know, and Parent Leadership Month. So, don't.
The only one I knew was Black History Month.
I knew it was Heart Month also. That one.
Oh yeah, Heart Month.
I've got a story about a broken pelvis when I was 15. It always makes me know February is Heart Month. That's for another time. But anyway. So, welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us again. We appreciate you. So, last night, Evan, we watched the Super Bowl, like a handful of other people across the country did. And I'm hearing a term: best Super Bowl ever. That's what I'm hearing.
Best Super Bowl since last year.
It's definitely see. That's exactly what I think.
We're all just let down from last year.
It's the best of the previous two. There have been some great ones. There have been some bad ones, and we've had some really good ones of late. I'm not prepared to say that was the best ever. It was a good game. It wasn't the best ever, or that's up for debate. But it was the most viewed ever.
Yes, yeah, it was. So I guess if you're going off of stats for viewership, yeah, it was the best one ever.
What was it? 49.7% of every household. So roughly half. Yeah. Roughly half of the households, and
you just got to think probably 8 to 10 people in front of that TV.
Right, and see that doesn't take into account people that were at business establishments watching in numbers, dozens and hundreds, or 5, 10, 15, 20 at a house. So anyway, suffice it to say, there were a lot of people watching the game. It was a very good game. I thought I saw something last night. I thought I saw something that was about to start. And the camera went away from it, so I wasn't sure. And I didn't say anything when we were watching the game. But after you and Katie left, and I got online and I was doing some looking, I did indeed see the beginning of what I thought I saw. And it was after his touchdown catch, Doug Baldwin, simulating pulling his pants down. And what he went on to, and the camera cut away, and I thought something was...
I noticed that.
Okay. Yeah. And when the camera cut away as quickly as it did, I thought something's up, because they will usually show several seconds of a touchdown celebration. He acted like he took a crap on the ball. I saw pictures that I found online afterwards. Now, I don't know if my age is coming into play here, or if things are just going. But, I remember back, and this is before your time, but I remember back when a player like for Houston, Billy White Shoes Johnson, or would do a dance, or we had the Icky Shuffle, and we had all of these. Now we've got players grabbing their crotches or pretending that they're either crapping out a ball or crapping on the ball. What the hell's going on? Is it me? Am I just getting old and I'm noticing this kind of stuff more and it's bothering me more?
Yeah, you're just easily offended.
But you noticed.
I noticed it cut away very fast, and then the penalty. Got a penalty. I was like, well, why won't it show it?
Right. So that's what was going on. And I didn't really have a dog in the fight. I don't care a whole lot for either teams, but for either one of the teams, I found myself at the end with the interception, being glad. So I guess in some way I was kind of pulling for Philadelphia. I was kind of pulling for New England.
Well, that was your prediction on the last.
Well, that
episode.
was my prediction. Yes, it was. So I guess I was kind of pulling a little bit for New England. Maybe because I felt like them winning was going to lead to a minimum of vulgar occurrences on my TV screen or something. I don't know. Were you pulling one way or the other for anybody?
No, not really.
All right. So anyway, football season's over. I figure the next time we'll talk about football will be for the draft. Yeah, which is coming like April 30th to May 1st or 2nd, something like that.
And we might have it's still in the air, but we might have a
guest draft analyzer. Yeah,
that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, I think we're working on something like that for post draft. I wouldn't even begin to try to predict who's going to draft what, but for some analysis afterwards, I think it might be interesting. So that's something we're working on. That's a little ways down the road. I noticed when I was out earlier that a marquee or a sign, a billboard, saying that the Powerball, $317 million. I might have to go buy a ticket.
Really?
Yeah. You ever?
No. How much are our tickets?
I think it's like $2 each now. I think it's either one or two. But you've never ever bought? Okay.
Never been I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm not gonna say I'm not gonna win, but
yeah,
just kind of my thought.
When it gets big like this, I might go out and buy 2 or 3, 4 tickets, and then the next time that it's really, really big like this, I might go out to buy 2 or 3, 4 tickets.
So, what is considered big?
Well, I mean, it starts out at 40. I mean, that's big, but I'm not going to buy a ticket or two every drawing. There's like 2 drawings a week, and that's just the Powerball. Mega Million also has like 1 or 2 drawings a week. You could actually, even if you bought just one ticket for every drawing of both, you probably, if there's 2 a week, you're throwing $104 out there a year. I'm not going to spend that kind of money on it. But when it gets big, I might go buy 2 or 3 or 4 tickets, and that might happen a couple of times a year. I'm not spending any money.
So we actually did an episode last week sometime?
Friday night.
So we did an episode, and as I was editing it, I realized it just went poof. I mean, it just couldn't find it. There's nothing to edit, so we actually have a lost episode floating around somewhere in there.
Or do we want to issue a reward for
it? Yeah.
If this episode is found, return
and
to
the thing is that was before the Super Bowl, and that was, there's stuff we talked about that kind of irrelevant now. So
right.
It's definitely not going to be the same. We're not trying to recreate the same episode. But.
No, I mean, what does really bother me about that is in that episode, I remember saying Russell Wilson's going to throw a very ill-advised pass at the 1-yard line very late in the game.
Shut up. Yeah, that.
Okay, yeah. Let's talk about let's talk about the play or the call for a while.
Yeah, for like 5 seconds. Why didn't they give it to beast mode?
Here's what. So we're sitting there watching it, and right before that, I said to you, I said, I think New England's best course of action is to just let him run in, and therefore save a couple of seconds and try to get the ball and get down in the field goal range and tie it up. Mm-hmm. I wasn't even considering the fact that any other play was going to be called other than just handing the ball to Marshawn Lynch.
Yep.
And so when he threw that interception, I said, as soon as it happened, I said, well, scratch that, what I said about offering up no resistance. Intercepting the ball is good resistance. But I think, now whether that game was the best game ever or not, I'll take issue with that. But I do believe that will probably go down as the most infamous play call in Super Bowl history.
Yeah, and that was Russell Wilson that did that play, not Pete Carroll?
No, Pete Carroll called it.
He made that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I know I saw something saying they planned on pass, run. Was the
Well, the run to Marshawn Lynch got them from the 5 to the 1, and so it's 2nd and goal at the 1. They have a timeout left. There's plenty of time to run another play. Again, I'm just thinking, let him in. When he gets the ball, just don't even try to tackle him. Let him in, and that's going to save you some time. It never even occurred to me that Seattle was going to try to do something else.
What's funny is the guy who intercepted it was the guy who just got burned on that,
on that crazy,
on that weird catch. So he recovered mentally very fast.
Well, and it was a great play. The pass was a little off. Pass was a little off. It was a little too much.
He was there where he did his job.
He did his job. He jumped the route. I mean, and he made a play on the ball instead of play on the receiver.
Oh, if he was a millisecond earlier, it would have been interference.
It's interference. If he's a little later, then it's a called
touchdown.
Ball.
Yeah.
And think about this. He made a play on the ball and not a play on the receiver. Remember going back to the NFC Championship game where the Green Bay defender, and on the 2-point conversion, made a play on the defender after the ball was already caught. And we said after that, why is he make a play on the ball that was floating up in the air for 18 minutes before it came down? I mean, it was a great defensive play. What was it? An undrafted rookie, free agent? I think
he's a rookie.
Last name Butler. So, I mean that I think will go down as the most infamous. Why in the world did you call that play in the history of the Super Bowl?
Oh, I'll tell you what. The reactions I saw. It was a compilation video of a bunch of reactions.
Okay.
It was first. It did on-field reactions.
Right.
It did. Tom Brady, Pete Carroll, it did Richard Sherman, and then it went to cell phone videos people took at their house of the reaction. The most hilarious one I saw, it was like 20 people, and they're all on their feet, and they're saying, beast mode, beast mode, beast mode, and they're chanting beast mode. And then you just see all their faces, they're like, what? Oh my God. Like, what? So we weren't the only two people in the world wondering why.
No.
Why they didn't run it.
Everybody watching the game. In fact, Katie was watching it with us, and she's not a big football watcher, and she even said, "What in the world?" So,
and she didn't even know the guy's name. She was like, "Why wouldn't you give it to the guy who's been running guys over all day?"
Right, she did. She said exactly that. Why wouldn't you just give it to the guy that's been running guys over? She didn't even know his name, so. It wasn't exactly an expert analysis, but she was 100% correct. Okay, we're going to take a little break here, and then when we come back, we're going to talk about the end of the world.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to put some creepy music in.
Yeah, so that's a tease you definitely don't want to leave and miss out on.
Yeah,
we'll be back.
We should just not come back, and we'll be like, "Did it end?" All right, we'll be back in a little bit.
Yep.
All right, so I don't think we mentioned this, but we're recording in our new studio today.
Yes, we are.
Yes, we upgraded.
This is our first show being recorded in our new studio. I don't know if the sound, will be that much different, but
yeah, I hope not.
But hope so.
Oh,
I hope it's
in a good way.
In a good way. And we'll be doing further equipment upgrades over the
very soon.
Yeah,
very soon.
Over the near term. Yes.
Yeah, we got a sponsor, so. All right, so we're in our new studio, and we actually spruced it up. We have a little topic board and a clock and a nice area to just podcast. And so I'm looking at this topic board, and John wrote something. And I mean, what is this, encrypted to where only you can understand it?
Yes, I didn't want you to scoop anything I was going to say, so I wrote it where only in kind of my special shorthand where only I could understand it. But when we went on break, we said we would talk about the end of the world. So a couple of weeks ago, something happened, and a lot of people probably unaware, but the so-called Doomsday clock got updated, and this is a hypothetical clock that is the product of the Chicago atomic scientists who got their start with the Manhattan Project back in the 1940s. And the Manhattan Project was the research and the development and the building of the atomic bombs that went on to use. Of course, they had a couple of at least one, and I think 2 test bombs that they exploded. I'm pretty sure it was in the desert of New Mexico.
Okay.
And before they finally actually used them, first over Hiroshima and then over Nagasaki, Japan. But people that were involved in the Manhattan Project went on to make up the Chicago atomic scientists. And beginning in 1947, they have issued so many minutes to midnight, with midnight being Doomsday. And what it is just it's a state of the world, of the geopolitical world, of how they view risk. They meet twice a year. The clock doesn't get updated every time they meet. It gets updated whenever they feel like
which is pretty significant with it being updated now. Because
you're right. It was updated just a couple of weeks ago for the first time.
And it doesn't get updated very much.
Right, for the first time since 2012, and it was taken 2 minutes closer to midnight at 11:57 p.m. So, in their mind, the threat of things like possible nuclear war is increasing. When they came out with the first one in 1947, the very first one was 11:53, 7 minutes to midnight, and it has varied anywhere from the closest being 2 minutes to midnight to the farthest away, which would be the safest time, being 17 minutes.
Oh, really?
To midnight. Yeah, back in 1991. After the fall of the Soviet Union, the Berlin Wall comes down.
So we were all there was to...
Well, yeah, it was just peace, and I guess it was as close to a worldly kumbaya as maybe
because
there's
at
ever
that
been.
time there was no one that could do anything other than us, really.
Well, no. I mean, there are other nations that have nuclear power.
Then?
I mean, nuclear bombs. Oh, yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. Several: India, Pakistan, France, Israel, England.
I wonder if just the world got rid of nuclear weapons, what the time would go down to.
It would probably go back to like 11:30 or something. But nuclear isn't the only thing. So beginning in 2007, they started factoring in climate change as part of their perceived threat to humanity and to the livability of planet Earth. Started back in 2007. That became a part of their equation, of their thought process. Since then, there's been a net gain from 7 minutes till to 4 minutes till midnight. So, and again, midnight being their theoretical. None of it is predicting the end of the world. None of it is predicting a war. It is just how they view, how this group of scientists views the state of the world from a man-made threat standpoint. They only look at man-made threats. 2 things of note. One, in 1962, the Cuban Missile Crisis, which is widely considered our closest past,
I wasn't alive.
You weren't alive. I was 9 months old. I don't remember a whole lot about it. But the clock wasn't changed then, because that whole thing was started, dealt with, and ended in a span of roughly 2 weeks. So, so it was over. It didn't affect the clock.
Yeah, because they didn't meet. Now, if they met during that,
it probably would have been 11:59 and 30 seconds. Certainly.
Oh,
I mean, because I'm not exaggerating.
We each had our fingers on the button.
Evidently, it was incredibly tense. Now, I will tell you this: I don't remember the Cuban Missile Crisis, But I remember having bomb drills in school, and the hallway was a fallout shelter.
Really?
Yes.
We did that too, but I didn't know the hallway was a fallout shelter.
Yeah. Well, by the
Is it
time
like
you were in
supported
school,
walls and
they
everything?
may have. Here's the deal. By the time you were in school, the bombs were so plentiful and so big that there would have been no point, really. And there may not have been a point when I was in elementary school, but I remember Fairfield Elementary School, the little yellow and black signs, fallout shelter in the hallway.
Really?
And the bombs that were in existence then might have had a yield small enough and a range small enough that a lot of people were going to survive. But by the time you're in school in the 90s,
Hydrogen bomb.
the hydrogen bomb, which yields are measured in megatons instead of kilotons, and of course 1 megaton equals 1,000 kilotons.
Yep.
So it was just, why bother? By the time...
You did.
Right, you're done. Of course, I grew up in Shreveport, Louisiana, which is right across the Red River from Barstow Air Force Base, which is a primary target.
Because I was about to ask why y'all had fallout shelters, but that would be one.
Here's another thing I just thought of that I thought was so interesting. When I was a kid, on Saturdays at noon, Shreveport would sound the air raid siren that you would hear all over the city. Okay, that they had a holdover from the war. Okay. And I remember asking my dad. I said, "What is that?" He said, "Well, that's a siren for an air raid or bomb or whatever." And I remember thinking, "Well, what if whoever was going to attack us?" And I'm just a little kid, so I thought, we might get attacked. If whoever's going to attack us, well, they would just attack us at noon on Saturday. So we would just think it was the regular noon. Hey, it's noon Saturday. So, but I don't know when they got rid of that thing, when they quit using it. But I do remember that siren going off at noon on Saturday. But guess what? We never got bombed.
Well, that's good.
It is good. At noon on Saturday or any other time. So anyway, that's a quick look at the Doomsday Clock. I think we're going to post. Are we going to?
Yeah,
on our site?
we'll post that wiki page on our links and our website.
Yeah, so you can go and take a look at all of the times, the 22 or so times that it's been updated since its existence since 1947.
Does it have the reasons and everything?
Yeah, it does. There's a little summary out.
So we could do a whole episode on it if we wanted to.
We could.
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting. And the thing about it is I don't think a lot of people pay attention. So
until you brought it up, I had no idea what the Doomsday Clock was.
And I think it's kind of interesting. But what we will segue that into is an actual forecast, a lot of them very specific forecast about the end of the world, and some of them are quite comical. We'll take a quick break, and we'll come back and we'll talk about that for just a couple of minutes. So the Doomsday Clock update got me thinking about end of the world predictions, even though that's not an end of the world prediction. And I of course we all remember the Mayan calendar 2012.
Yep.
Thing that got
a movie.
There were at least two, probably more, but there were at least two. One starring John Cusack, and the name of it was 2012.
And it came out 2012. Right?
And it came out in 2012, and then there was another one starring Steve Carell and Seeking a Friend for the End of the World.
Yeah, that's right.
The Cusack thing was one of these that totally depended upon special effects, and I was hopeful it would be a good movie, and it wasn't. The Steve Carell movie
that was so depressing.
It was dark, but it was a good movie. I thought it was a well-made movie, but yeah, I mean, it was dark.
It was depressing.
It was depressing. Yeah, it was. It did not have a happy ending.
But I guess the end of the world is not really all sunshine and rainbows, so I guess they fit the part well.
Yeah, I guess it was. So anyway, I got to thinking about that, and I looked up, did a little internet looking, and the list that I came across
It was
on Wikipedia
impressive.
was well over 100 entries long.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we just decided to do was grab a couple of the more noteworthy ones. And
the ones that were just kind of so crazy we couldn't not mention them.
They're worth a good laugh.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're worth a good laugh. So we're just going to run down a few of these for you.
So we have Joanna Southcott, 64-year-old self-described prophet, claimed she was pregnant with the Christ child and that he would be born on Christmas Day, 1814. She died on the day of her prediction, and an autopsy proved that she was not pregnant.
And we got another, and this one actually kind of leaves a little bit of a mark on me. It's kind of depressing. John Wesley, the founder of the Methodist Church, who is half of my namesake, predicted the end of the world that he calculated from Revelations somewhere between 1058 and 1836. Well, that's quite a stretch there.
Yeah.
But anyway, also there was one, and this was before your time, but there was a Reverend Jim Jones that started the People's Temple, and in he said that there was going to be a Holocaust in 1967. And of course, that came and went without it happening. But that story has a very, very true and a very, very tragic ending. He was catching some grief here in the States for some stuff he was doing, so he just decided to go down to Guyana and create his own little community. And some word gradually leaked out of some things going on there that were bad. Some people that wanted to leave and felt afraid to leave and they couldn't leave, and so on and so forth. So, and I think this happened, I believe it all came to a head in November of 1977, because I'm pretty sure I remember me and my parents being on a trip to Colorado when Congressman Ryan, I forget his first name, but Congressman Ryan went to Guyana to do some fact finding, and as he and his group of people started to leave, and they went out to the little airstrip to leave, they were gunned down because they had found out some things. I think they were actually taking some people.
The congressman did?
Yes, he was murdered.
Wow. And
other people in his party were murdered too. Well, so back in the little village of Jonestown, Jim Jones now knows it's over. So what he does is he convinces, they've got this Kool-Aid mixed up. You ever heard the term drink the Kool-Aid?
Yeah.
That's where this comes from.
Really?
That's where this comes from. He's got some poison Kool-Aid, and he's convincing people that this is the time, do it. And so they... some people were shot because they were trying to flee, but a lot of them, and so you had whole families, and the number was in the hundreds of dead people that just took their own life. So, some of these stories are kind of funny and quirky. Some of them are really tragic. Of course, Charles Manson, through his whole helter-skelter thing, that he predicted that there would be a big race war, and it was kind of based on a Beatles song, and he went out and ordered a pair of just horribly, terribly gruesome and brutal murders. Sharon Tate, the actress, and some people that were in her house, and then a couple called, their last name was LaBianca. It was just two different murder scenes, but I mean, some of the most notorious murder scenes, in our country's history for their brutality. And again, one of the victims was a famous person.
And why did they kill these people? They thought that would prevent the world from
No. It was, I used to know a little bit more about the story than I do now, but I believe Charles Manson, I think this was his way of trying to trigger the race war. Maybe they did this and they were going to try to make people think African Americans might have done it. And anyway, he was big into a big conflict race war type, thing. And of course, he's still in the news. He still comes up for parole every so often. Didn't he get married recently? I think I saw something in the news. Yeah, that's good old Charlie. So, obviously, very, very sad. And another one, the Heaven's Gate cult in 1997. Their leader, Marshall Applewhite, and I still remember the TV pictures on the news. He was a very, very strange-looking, kind of bug-eyed fella. And if I remember correctly, they were out in San Diego. And there was the comet Hale-Bopp was approaching its closest point to the sun or whatever, and he convinced his followers that there was a ship trailing that comet that they needed to be on, and the only way for them to be on was to kill themselves. And I believe the number was 38 people committed suicide in hopes of making it aboard that mothership that obviously wasn't real. So those were, of the ones I've seen here, those were the only ones that truly led to tragedy, truly led to people either being murdered or taking their own lives. But we've got a couple of other funny ones here. Isaac Newton got in on the act. He predicted the end of the world would come in the year 2000. And most of it is astrologers from several hundred years ago. There are a whole lot of religious kooks.
Some mathematicians were in there.
Yeah, there were a couple of mathematicians, but Isaac Newton considered one of the great scientific minds in mankind's history. But yet, he himself wasn't above this kind of thing, predicting the end of the world. You remember one, actually, that happened back in, I think, 2011. You remember it a little bit better than I do. I mean, after you talked about it, I kind of remembered it, but what was the guy's name?
Yeah, the only one I remember out of this whole list, well, there was a few. I mean, there was, of course, 2012.
Right.
Y2K back in 2000.
That's right, the Y2K thing.
And this guy, Harold Camping. He was he predicted the rapture. He thought he predicted the rapture, and it was in May 2011, and he was wrong. But the first time it was huge. I mean, I remember billboards on the road. People, get your life right. Jesus is coming.
Yeah.
And it was huge. And somehow they let this guy do another prediction. Just about 5-6 months later. And that's another thing. On this list, there were a lot of repeat offenders.
Yes, there
was. I mean,
there were some.
There was one. He was on there 4 times.
Yeah, there were several people that gave this multiple tries, and
we're all still here. So.
We're all still here. Yeah. So anyway, I guess the point is probably on the list of things to worry about. The end of the world is pretty far down. Anyway, I just thought and again, some of these are comical, some of them obviously tragic, but I thought it kind of tied in well to the updating of the Doomsday Clock.
Now we're going to put this list right there with our Doomsday, the links for this. So if you actually want to see the whole list, it'll be on there. And
I say it's worth reading.
Oh yeah. Reserve yourself a good hour.
Yeah,
it takes a while. It's a good history lesson.
It is a good history lesson
because it goes all the way back to before the Common Era.
Yeah,
predictions.
It does. Yeah.
And, what else we got going
on? Just to. So I don't want to end on an end of the world Doomsday Clock note. So what we'll do is real quickly just want to line out the month of February that we're trying to put together for our listeners.
Right.
We've got a fitness expert coming in to be a guest and do a conversation. Do we want to say the name?
Yes, my wife.
Yes. Well, her name is Katie.
Her name is
Katie.
Yes,
Katie, Mrs. Katie Eddington. She is very much a fitness expert. We're going to bring her in hopefully during the course of this month and talk about some things that she's doing and accomplishing.
Yeah, we talked about getting her around Fitness Month, and I think
that's May. Yeah,
but we have a lot of people who are taking on weight loss New Year's resolutions, and we figured getting a fitness person in here to kind of kind of talk up fitness
Yeah.
would help them out in some way.
And I think we may bring her in again in May also.
Oh yeah, she'll be coming on.
Yeah, because there's something, and for our new listeners, they may not know. I know our early listeners, not our new listeners, we're all of 7 weeks old. But if you just have tuned in over the past few weeks, you may not know. But for those of us who've been around since the beginning, Katie's actually pregnant, so she is maintaining a very rigorous training schedule and workout schedule during the course of her pregnancy, and that's one of the things that we're going to talk about. When
training
she
for a
comes in.
marathon and just all kind of. I mean, she works out 5 times as much as I do, and
Yeah, I don't think she has scaled back any, has she?
oh no,
Not yet.
Okay. And you know, we'll get all into it.
Yeah, but especially if you're into fitness, if you're interested in fitness, and if you know some people that are interested in fitness, let them know.
You're gonna learn you something.
Yep. Leading up to the Oscars, we're going to have a guest movie reviewer in, and we're going to get their predictions. I've got some predictions. I've seen 6 of the 8 best pictures that were nominated for Best Picture. So of those 6, I'm gonna give my predictions, and I've enjoyed going to see the movies. We're going to try to do a little something about President's Day. During President's Day, which is a couple of weeks from now, we're going to hit a little history, a little presidential history. And so that's some things that we're lining out for the month of February, plus whatever else we come up with. So hopefully you'll hang around, you'll let some friends know. And I think, Evan, you probably got a couple of things you want to mention before we get out of here.
Oh, well, I really don't have anything else other than if our audience wants to contact us in any way, just hit us up on our email. It's theboomerandxshow@yahoo.com. We're always checking our Facebook page, The Boomer and X Show. Go on our page and like it. And most importantly, this helps us out, like growing and getting a bigger audience. And I don't know what's good esteem. I don't know.
Yeah, just grow the show.
Yeah.
Just grow the show.
It helps us out if you go on iTunes. Not only download and subscribe, but also give us a review. Go ahead and give us a 5-star review while you're at it, all right?
give us your honest.
Give us an honest.
Give us
review.
your honest opinion.
And our website, it's there. theboomerandxshow.libsyn.com.
Yeah.
We don't send a lot of people to it because we always link it in every other thing.
Yeah.
So, but it's there.
We're probably going to upgrade that situation soon. Anyway. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So, anyway, thanks again for joining us, and we'll be back at you next time. Have a great week.
See y'all later.